Hello, and
Hi, Jackie. It's good to be on the show.
thank you.
Yeah. We've me and my partner Luis Alvarado. We started Night Creature Productions back in the '90s, and we've been lifelong horror zombie fans. And one time we had the opportunity to seize the moment in a 48-hour film competition, and we decided to shoot kind of a hybrid of a suspense thriller zombie film for a 48-hour film competition.
And I hear you actually won an award for that.
Yeah, we came in first runner-up for the grand prize, and it was a nice little exercise in filmmaking.
Talk to me about what is the importance of being able to win this particular award.
Oh, it was kind of a validation for all the hard work that we did, because making a movie in 48 hours is just completely insane. I mean, you have to write the script, you have the cast, you have to do everything within that 2 days. And it was just, I'm not used to working under sort of a not like that. And it was quite the endeavor.
Okay, so what I'd like to know is find out, I'm always interested in what makes a person drive to do the kinds of things that they do. What do you find as your biggest influences in the zombie genre, and who motivates you to take that step and go higher?
I have always been attracted to zombie films. George Romero is like one of my biggest influences, and I was honored to meet him at Fantastic Fest for Survival of the Dead premiere. And I've just grown up around Dawn and Day and Night, and of course later on Land and Diary and Survival. But he has just always been a big influence in the style of do-it-yourself filmmaking. A guy from Pittsburgh that got his friends together and made a little low-budget horror zombie film, and we started The Landmark, and who wouldn't be inspired to kind of follow in those footsteps?
That's pretty cool. I would like to talk to you about your very first feature film that was done in 1999-2000 called Dark Blood. Tell me a little bit about how that started and what you did to be able to get it off the ground.
Oh, that was quite an endeavor. We were still in film classes and learning how to edit and shoot when we got there, and we had this kind of crazy idea we'd do it Rodriguez style and go out there and get a camera and start shooting. And we shot for over a year. We trying to do this vampire film, and it was very daunting. It took about a year to make, and that's because people kept coming in and leaving, recasting, and we had an elaborate amount of special effects makeup in the film that required a lot of work. And of course, when somebody comes in and leaves, you're forced to kind of start over again. So throughout the duration of a year, we finally completed the film and then had a showcase for it. And it was a 90-minute film, and then we just kind of found out that it's very, very difficult. Making the movie's one step. Marketing it and getting it out to the public is a completely different step that we weren't prepared for at that time as, budding filmmakers at that point. So it took us a while. I mean, we played it locally and regionally for a while, and then we just kind of let it sit, and then we kind of realized what, we had to kind of do to kind of step up our game and start producing different types of films,
And you started out with an 8mm film, and then
Video 8.
Yeah, and you moved it over to Super VHS.
Yeah, we did it in the pre-digital era. We didn't have a computer to edit and do all the stuff that most filmmakers have access to now. We actually shoot on 8, transfer to Super VHS, cut it on a switcher, but it was a lengthy editing process inside of the station, and until we got a master of a linear editing. And if anybody's done linear editing, you can't go back and forth. You have to pretty much stay in that timeline. And, it's a very lengthy process.
Who helped you with doing the special effects and things of that sort? I'm always interested in like the literally the behind the scenes. How did you go about doing the special effects?
I've always been fascinated by special effects makeup. That's just like one of my things. And I was about 12 or 13 and learning it from the Richard Corson makeup guide and the Dick Smith book, and just experimenting on my friends and learning the craft over the years. And of course Fangoria, I can't, they always had like special issues that showed step by step, and just trying to emulate all that and stuff. And then through the years we kind of build up, started building up our arsenal of gags, and and then we said like, hey, we can build these scenes around these special effects, and then we started writing a script kind of based on what we can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And then a buddy of mine, Tom Irving, who's worked on many a film, and we met on AOL in the 90s, chatting about horror, because I'm a big Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento fan too, so we had a lot in common there, and he just kind of helped me out, giving me tips and whatnot and everything. So it was throughout the years, just practicing and honing those skills.
That's pretty cool. I also like to ask everyone that's on the show who they like to read.
Who do I like to read? I like to read Stephen King and Clive Barker and Dean Koontz to an extent. I really have read them the most out of any trio of authors. I mean, Douglas Winter and Skip Inspector, of course, as well. But those were the three major authors that kind of shaped my literary influences.
Sometimes when we're putting together projects, we listen to music, and I'm curious to see if there is anyone that you like to listen to, either when you're creating or when you're actually shooting the film.
Shooting a film, not too often, but during the creation of it, the planning and the scripting phases, I'm kind of all over the place. I'll listen to heavy metal. I'll listen to like Slayer and Pantera and stuff like that, or I'll listen to some goth like Bauhaus and whatnot, or it just depends. I am just really kind of influenced by a lot of different types of genres of music, Ministry and Nine Inch Nails. I'm just very, very influenced by the kind of darker music.
If you had an opportunity to work on a film with any director, who would you pick and why?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I could say Robert Rodriguez or George Romero or Ridley Scott. I mean, those guys are like, the prototype for anybody that wanted to follow in terms of visual filmmaking. I'm a very visual person, so I think, a lot of that would definitely influence me. Sam Raimi, of course, as well, and Peter Jackson. Those would probably be my choices right there.
When you see the things that are going on in the zombie field within the 2012, as opposed to how it started out, we'll talk maybe in the George Romero era, what do you think has changed the most, and what do you think has changed very little?
Well, I think what's changed the most is I think people have finally gotten, due to The Walking Dead and what Frank Darabont has done with the genre on television and exposing it to such a mass audience through television, that, everybody's starting to catch on now. It's amazing how many people are doing zombie walks and Walking Dead parties, where it's like 10 years ago or even 15 years ago, we were like little trolls that sat in a cave watching zombie films like Fulci films or Romero or anybody. It just wasn't fashionable back then. It was, it's like, wow, people are just kind of caught on at this point now in 2012, whereas years ago.
Yeah, it causes one to take a look at this and go, geez, like they're everywhere. I mean, think about this. I've seen commercials that have had zombies in them. I've seen uh, newspaper ads with zombies in them. And, on the news, of course, we have heard recently within the last 6 months all of these terrible attacks that happened starting off in Miami and moving around all over the world. What do you think, if any, has the impact been within these particular issues? As far as the media is concerned, do you think that maybe they might have gotten some sort of an idea to do that from there, or do you think that this is something that's genetically unique?
I think people have a tendency of overreacting, especially when they see something on television and trying to do a knee-jerk reaction to what's going on into the media and trying to connect it to something societal. And a lot of times crazy is just crazy. People do very bizarre things just for the sake of doing it, and they've not even watched anything in particular. They just do it. So I don't really think that it's so much of anything that's media-based or mimicking-based as much as just, people are just generally kind of loony and do strange things, especially when they're under the influence of drugs. I mean, it's a completely different ballgame with dealing with type of rationale.
So you write, you shoot, you edit, you direct, and you do special effects. A lot of times I've talked to people and they only take one particular area and they try to concentrate on just that one thing. What drives you to really want to have your hand in all of it?
Actually, as I get older, I try to find people that are better at it or just as good as I am and kind of collaborate. Back when I was starting, of course, the only person you can rely on is yourself, especially when you're dealing with a low-budget film with no money and no time. But now I find myself trying to delineate jobs and work with people and network the same way. But I just have an interest in a lot of different things. I may not be the best at a lot of things, but I definitely know how to do them. And I definitely try, every time I do something, I try to give me something to strive for, to kind of reach for. And I noticed that my filmmaking over the years has gotten more tighter and more concise, and my stories have gotten a little bit more involving as well, which is always a blessing too, because you just sometimes people can make a movie and not really say anything. And the thing about being in the media and being a good filmmaker is having a good story and telling a good story and conveying something to the audience and yourself.
How do you get the actors? How do you convey to the actors what you want them to do on the screen? Because we know that even if you have the most wonderful special effects out there and you have an awesome location and you have all of these other things going on, if the acting is subpar, it's not going to come off very good on the film itself, and it's going to be a flop. How do you get these people to get into character and display what you really want to convey on that film?
In the past, before, I think it was like, it's in the script, this is how it's supposed to go. As a director, when you're starting out, you just try to get people to kind of fit in a little box. And as I've worked with more actors and try to do things, I've definitely finding myself having more conversations about what this is about, what you're trying to do, more about the motivation behind the character, trying to have a conversation and getting to the core of the scene. I believe that's the best way to do it, instead of just telling them how to act and how to do that, because that's not my job. I'm not the actor, I'm the director. I'm more of the judge of what they're going to do and how it looks on camera, and if I see what I'm looking for in their performances. But I think the best way is just communicating with them, talking to them very concisely and having that conversation and being very open to their suggestions and back and forth, because it's very collaborative.
Yes.
The better actors you have, it's more of a collaboration. Because then if I do the casting right, then my job's very easy.
So on to the next issue. You have to find people to be able to do the production, and they have to work well, and their personalities have to be good, and all of this. How does one go about finding actors?
Mainly the auditioning process. He's putting out ads either on the newspaper, Facebook, Craigslist, Twitter. Yeah, I mean, you have many avenues now, whereas it used to be just, go to a high school, go to a college, and talk to a theater arts department and see if you had any aspiring film actors or people in your film classes and stuff. But now you have so many different angles, and then you meet these actors and you have a conversation with them. And that's usually how I get whether if an actor's going to gel well with me is if we can talk about music or life or anything in particular. And if we kind of have similar footing and interests and stuff like that, then they already know what they're getting into working on one of our films, because we're generally genre-based in horror. So they already kind of are getting kind of familiarized with us. And then when we start going over the scenes together, then it just becomes, if it works right, then you know right away it's going to start gelling. It's going to work.
Right. What is the youngest age actor that you have used so far?
Well, my most recent film, Elle, Cucuy, or one of my most recent films, I had to find a young child actress, and I had a couple of child actors come in about ages, I think the youngest now is about 7 to 8, 9, somewhere around there, and had to not scare them, or not scare them, but intimidate them and stuff, and just try to get them very relaxed into doing a very simple scene of being a little brat on camera. And I found my actress in Jolie Emery, and that was the youngest I've worked with so far. It's about 8 or 9.
What do you think about the inclusion of young people, and now what we see on the Walking Dead, babies or even fetuses being adopted into the role of zombie, or zombie maybe perhaps?
I was actually kind of, because everybody's like, oh, look at the zombie baby in Dawn of the Dead 04, Zack Snyder's, or in The Walking Dead. But, I mean, Peter Jackson kind of tackled it humorously in Dead Alive with Baby Selwyn. And it was very tongue-in-cheek. And, of course you think, oh, baby dead zombie, and it's funny, and it's like a little puppet creature and stuff. But I think it has a lot to do now with society and the fears that people have, and especially about death and birth, and kind of using the zombie lore to kind of go in kind of a strange taboo direction a little bit, and dealing with that, and kind of trying to be a little bit more edgier and unnerving.
There are certain particular viruses and diseases that do cross the placental barrier already in real life, and I believe that when I saw the Walking Dead have this lady, and she's pregnant, and she's worried whether or not this baby is going to be okay, or it could be just born with the virus and have a regular birth, or if it was actually going to start basically taking her apart from the inside out. There were a lot of different kinds of things that would go working on a woman's mental capacity if they had run into that kind of a situation. So I find that it is disturbing on a number of levels, because in actuality, some of these things have already happened.
Yeah, I think a lot of that fear is kind of like what David Cronenberg kind of tackles in his films, the lack of control of the body horror, the things that, these strange things that would happen to your body that you have absolutely no control over. And I think that's probably one of our more primal fears, is like a rash or something that would just totally alter us and make us different, or pass along to our unborn children. Yes. And I think that's also it's a very valid fear. I think a lot of people deal with that, upstairs, but not necessarily so much in their life. But, I think that's what they're trying. I'm not saying I know what they're trying to convey, but I think that's what they were trying to convey with that fear of the body and the uncontrolled body.
What kind of projects do you find yourself thinking about working on within the next couple of years?
I don't. I think right now, our company is. We've managed to start generating a lot of interest with our films through a lot of screenings through film festivals and stuff. We've been kind of in a short film, trying to get as many of our ideas out in a short film, but I think it's actually time for us to kind of step it forward and actually start moving into a feature film direction again, whereas we weren't ready for it in 2000, but in 2012 I think we're a lot older and wiser to how the business works, and I've met and talked to other filmmakers along the way and kind of got an idea of where the business is, and it's ever evolving now because technology and interests and everything are shifting every so often. So we kind of have to kind of base not a lot, but a little bit of what we're planning to do if we do a feature, and then also trying to build the capital to do it correctly and not rushed and very well produced. Because I think that's more of our goals now, is to actually, yeah, we can do this for X amount of dollars in 5 to 10 minutes, but now we would like, do the same quality, but definitely on a larger budget. And I'm very influenced by what I grew up with in the 70s and 80s, and that may not be so popular now, but maybe later on too. But I just feel I'm sick of CGI. I don't find much joy in watching CGI zombies and stuff like that. I'm very a Savini, Gina Rossi, zombie person. If we can do it practically in front of the lens and bring it through an actor's performance, I'm all about it.
I think the CGI takes away too much of the physicalness of it. You can make something look spectacular, but then it loses its original meaning, and you kind of look at that and go, well, yeah, no big deal. When these films were first starting to come out back in the 1930s, there was the Haitian woman who brought back the dead. Either she reanimated a dead corpse that was brought to her, or she went to a graveyard and reanimated the corpse. And you go through this whole kind of symbolic, very religious, ritualistic kind of experience. And then as we're going and moving along, we're finding that these abilities for people to turn into zombies didn't necessarily need a physical person to control and manipulate their mind. That somehow they ended up with something that made them turn. And so I'm very interested in keeping things as original as possible, but I also enjoy that in the contemporary they are taking zombies and what they can do to a whole nother level. And I'm wondering where exactly you fit into all of this. If you had the opportunity to be able to work with someone who said that these zombies were affected by something that was sprayed on everybody, and they all turned into this, but they're still able to think, they're still able to function properly, and they have either incredible speed or incredible strength, or the ability to be able to keep 90% of their humanness, what would you do?
That's a good question. I even in dealing with the short zombie film that I've done and tackling it slightly in another film that I worked on called One Dark Night, I try to see myself trying to stray away from the sci-fi and elements of that and kind of going into more of a supernatural fold with zombies and kind of making it a little bit more spiritual and a little less defined. I think I really enjoyed Lucille Fulci's Zombies. There was more of an atmospheric thing, and more of a what is this kind of it's very ambiguous. It's hard to grab onto it, but they're there, and they've arose, and they're here to devour us as that. And I missed the kind of supernatural elements of zombies where there weren't so, it was like 28 days later with the blood or the
What did
the
you think
bites.
about that particular movie? I happen to enjoy that particular movie. I don't necessarily like a lot of the stuff that's out there, but I looked at that and I went, dang, it had a psychological thrill to it. It had a lot of different kinds of technical aspects to it, and it seemed to really just kind of pull me in so that I really started to really care about what was really going on there.
What, the 28 Days Later?
Yes.
I look at 28 Days Later as Danny Boyle's doing a very succinct character study with these very interesting people and the backdrop of something that isn't quite zombie, but could be a zombie because they're still technically alive.
Right.
They're infected, I believe is what they're called in the film.
Right.
And they have no core emotions other than rage, which is what drives them in the film.
Right.
And it's very terrifying. And then you put these people that you like in that terrifying situation, and that's the power of 28 Days Later, and even the sequel to an extent. Is that fear of being attacked by something that has no control over its mind, the same way a zombie is, and that's the comparison between the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can make them faster because they're still alive.
Yes.
They don't have the rigor mortis setting into their bones and their tissues and stuff like that. These are functioning people that just have one thing on their mind, and it's to destroy whatever's in front of them.
When you go and you write, what do you rely on? I mean, do you do research in particular areas? Do you have people that you talk to in the medical field or in the psychological field, or anything like that to be able to glean your information from?
I gather a lot of things from what I do for a living, which is a photojournalist and news photographer. I'm out and I see the stuff, pretty much as it happens or as it's happening in real life, and a lot of the research I will do is online. I think I'm exposed to so much of the realness of society and life. I am kind of more like, where can I go supernatural? Where can I make this a little bit more fun or a little less dire and stuff like that, and make it in that thing. And I'll do research. I will read up on things that I find interesting and try to expand on that. And a lot of the times that a movie is sometimes just a feeling, and many times in your life, life will hand you something and you're very upset at that point, and you find a lot of fire in those situations in life that you'll put onto paper. And I find myself doing that a lot too. Mm-hmm. Just trying to work out your demons, on the page, and then gathering enough like-minded people and then trying to exercise it on film, for lack of a better analogy. But, but a lot of, like, some of the films that I've done lately is, like, I've been really influenced in our culture here in the Southwest. So I've definitely worked mysticism and curanderism into the film, and some of the folklore, like with one of our films with the Latin boogeyman, the Cucuy,
Talk to me
about all of that.
Because you just finished it, I believe, in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to me about Southwest Film Festival.
Well, yeah, there was a film expo during Southwest called the Self-Medicated Film Exchange, and we were playing during South by Southwest there, and it was really cool because it was a film festival, and it's one of the largest film festivals in Texas, and we got to show our film, and then alongside other films that were all of different genres and types, and these filmmakers. And Austin's film scene is just very open, and I don't usually get that condescending pretentiousness. Well, there might be a little bit of it, but not as much there. So that was really cool. That was our first big film festival for a little project that we put together and put out there. But it was definitely very flavored in the area of where we come from.
Tell me how uniquely different it is to be able to have a film be shown at this particular festival?
It's different because I'm in an audience full of people I don't know. Number one, and all these people are very film savvy, and that's number two right there. And I'm just hoping I'm not insulting their intelligence, and then they're actually following along with what we're trying to convey on the screen. And like I said, generally we've got very good reviews for the film, and it's very simple, and that's what I think is very, very good about the film is its simplicity.
I'd like you to give a shout out to your leading lady, Priscilla Ivins.
Priscilla. She's been working on movies for a while, and we went to high school together, and she was definitely put through a lot in that film, and she put us a lot through that film too. So kind of give and take, I guess you could say too. And she's been doing other feature films since Cucuy, and we definitely appreciate her efforts with that. And of course, I got to give a bigger shout out to my producer, who's been my best friend since 1981, and my producer on all of our 8 projects. And we've gone through thick and thin. We've had money, we've had no money, we've been through so much, so much. So, when you ever make these movies, I think the story of the making of the movie is sometimes more interesting than the film. But, definitely Luis Alvarado has put so much on the table for me to work with, and I owe a lot to him as well. He's the other half of Night Creature Productions,
Cool, and we don't want to forget your lead male actor, Guillotine.
Yes.
Also in that film.
Guillotine, he's a personality. I'm just throwing it out there right now. He threw so much of himself into that film, and he was he says when I offered him that role, it's like, are you kidding me? That's like our folklore. This is what we grew up with. Yes, I will love to be this creature, and of course it involves all this.
That's the other thing that I wanted to ask you. Although these people would be a good fit, what made you really know that they were going to be a good fit before you cast them?
I knew that I couldn't cast, just any person of any age. I had to find the right actor that was a little bit older, that was a little bit more mature upstairs, that could handle being something like this. And it's like you give it to a kid and they wouldn't know exactly what to do with it, but you give it to an older person and they can definitely bring it to the table. And same thing with one of my other actresses, Berna, who's on Towns. She's Ophelia. She's a Cucuy in the film, and she's very menacing as well. And let's give a shout out to her as well, because she is a lot of the success of Cucuy and Penn as well.
And so your next step was the South Texas Underground Film Festival, International Films, and you won an award for achievement in local filmmaking.
Yes, that was the Pepe Serna Award, and we won that award for the film, and it was a great honor because it was given to us by the actor Pepe Serna.
Yeah, I heard it. And for those who are listening that might not know what his particular background is, he has been in films such as American Me and Scarface, and what else?
Buckaroo Banzai, and I have to go look up IMDb right now, but I mean, he's been on so many TV shows and films. Buckaroo Banzai, is one of my favorite films too, and I was just, Scarface, whatever and stuff. But when I met him, I was like, dude, one of my favorite films is Buckaroo Banzai. And he thought, oh yeah, it was great to make, and he was very down to earth, very, very great guy. Enjoyed meeting him and hanging out with him at the film festival and stuff. And we also got to do the San Antonio Horrific Film Festival at the Alamo Draft House, which is a very popular chain of movie theaters here in the Southwest, and they had a screening for us as well, and it was nice to be officially selected into that film festival because we got to meet a lot of really cool filmmakers there as well.
I hear also that you, on your travels from going all over the place, have met one of my very favorite zombie genre guys, and he is known on Facebook as Non-Practical, and his very practical name is Scott Thomas. He wrote the book Zombie Apocalypse Survival Guide. Tell me a little bit about your experience with Mr. Thomas.
Oh, Mr. Thomas. Grew up with him, number one. He lived on the street around from us, and we went to the same high school and knew a lot of the same people around the block and stuff. So me and Scott have known each other. He's a crazy cat, love him to death. Then, ironically enough, so many years later, we ended up working at the same news station, photographer-producer relationship, and of course we've kept the rapport going on there. He's moved since then, but yeah, and then he had this book come out, and it was such a great thing for him as well. I'm really proud of him.
So, in view of everything else, if you were going to have a individual come on the news, and you're in your house, you were doing your own thing, and you were, paying attention to some other stuff, and all of a sudden the news flash came across that said that your area was one of the targeted areas for a zombie apocalypse, that they were coming, and they were going to be there within 2 or 3 days, what would you do to prepare in 2 scenarios? 1, where you could fortify your house, and 2, where you absolutely had to go. What would you do in both cases?
Oh, wow. Good question. Fortifying my facility would probably not be the best thing in the world for me. I would probably run. I'd probably try to run it, because we're in the country. I mean, there's plenty of places to hide around here. I mean, I would probably try to go that route, fortify myself somewhere in the country that's a little far away from all the major fallout, because the larger the city, the more population, which means the more growth of the zombies.
Right.
So definitely more out in the country where population's sparser, and you can definitely get a beat on the impending zombies, and try to fortify somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, set up booby traps and whatever else you could set up in the amount of time that we were given. Because usually, if they're anything like in the movies, they would probably try to focus on whether it's more food, and then start running into the rural areas. And of course, we're in Texas, so everybody has a gun, so that'll be the first thing I'd go for, is getting myself quite a few automatic and semi-automatic weapons to protect myself with. Also finding tire irons and blunt objects as well that could be used against them.
And, well, you kind of sort of answered that in a one kind of chunk kind of answer. That's
I thought about this quite a bit, actually.
So if you were able to get a group of people, if you had 2 or 3 days and you still had communication ability, who would be the 3 people that you would take with you, and why?
I would probably take my parents and my best friend, because I know at least I could trust them in any scenario, and it's like, I got your back, you got my back type of working relationship. Not only are we close, but we are also working close, that we can. You're only as good as your weakest link in your team. Mm-hmm. It goes for anything in life, and you want to surround yourself with the most trustworthy people that are constantly eyeballing your back, and you're eyeballing their back, just to make sure that they're safe. And that would probably be the best thing in the zombie apocalypse scenario.
Absolutely. Okay, so I need you to tell people how they can find you if they are listening either now or on the archive that we're going to put up at Zombiepalooza Radio on ztalkradio.com. So how would they find you?
Yes, we have a Facebook fan page for the Night Creature Productions, and that's just go to Facebook and look up Night Creature Productions, and you'd find us. And on Twitter, it's we're, I believe, at NCPCCTX on Twitter. And then we have a YouTube channel, which is Darkblood 3006.
Talk to me a little bit about your YouTube channel. What can they find there?
Pretty much trailers and some of the short films that we've produced over the years. There's 26 projects, and it's basically our I guess video history, because you can see just about anything we've done up except for about this year, since a lot of things are still, pending with film festivals and stuff. We can't usually put them up there yet until we're done with our run, but pretty much all of our films up to about 2010 are there.
Okay, so what do you think about the zombie genre being effectively used for those who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder?
I think it's a great thing if they're needing that kind of release. And I think a lot of what people that go through any kind of traumatic incident in their life, no matter if it's at war, at home, and stuff, they need a release. A release is very important for anybody, to get to work whatever they're dealing with out. And it's great. I think it's a great way to safely do that and not hurt or be hurt.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing that I would like to find out is if you have any current projects that you're working on that you would like to ask anybody to assist you on, or to help you get into the right direction, or anything like that.
Yeah, right now we're actually scripting our next couple of projects, and a buddy of mine, Richard Martinez, is helping me write one screenplay, and I'm writing another one, and we're collaborating, going back and forth. And we're definitely, anybody that wants to help out, and we get a good feel for you, and you feel like you're part of the team and want to be genuinely part of the team, will show up on time and have respect for everybody on the team, as well as yourself. We definitely want to work with you.
Right.
That's what it really comes down to. The respectfulness to the work that everybody's putting into, not just the filmmakers, but the actors and the crew members on there. I mean, everybody's putting their time, and time is very important for many people.
Let's see, what else? Trying to think of, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to mention to let people know about you, or anything that you would like to talk about?
Just that we're fans. I will straight up say that to anybody. I've met many celebrities, in my job, but I was starstruck by George Romero. I mean, I've met presidents and stuff, but definitely George Romero. I'm a fan, and I make films, that would appeal to me as a fan, or I try to, based on limited budget and stuff. We don't have a silver spoon in our mouth, so everything that we get for our budget, we put into our films. And definitely, the learning curve is improved. It's very democratic now to go and make a film, so it's not like you get tied into anybody's little circle. I mean, anybody can just break away and grab a camera and some friends and do it. But I definitely try to keep as much professionalism on the set. Anybody that works with us, we try to keep it very professional, fun, and professional.
Right. It's really important to be able to have a lot of different abilities to be able to get the film out there in the light, and to let people know that it's there. Sometimes what I've been told is that they thought that the hardest thing would be to get it into production and get it finished. But a lot of times what they're talking about is that seems to be even harder to be able to get the films out there into the public eye, or to get people to help sponsor them, or to find a particular place where they can find a good fan base. And so Zombiepalooza Radio and Zombiepalooza Dead Again, the Facebook page, is really in a position uniquely to be able to bring a lot of different kinds of people together. And we are very interested in having everyone network through this in a very safe, fun environment. And so we appreciate having you as part of this, and we are looking forward to seeing more of your work, and looking to see how you grow within the next couple of years with Night Creature production. It has been an immense pleasure to have you on, and I look forward to having many more conversations with you. Please let me know when you finish your next project so that we may, at Zombiepalooza Radio, get you out there and get your fans to hear what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Jackie. I really appreciate everything. Just giving us the opportunity to chat about it. You know, that was great. We really appreciate it.
Well, you know what? I wanted to ask you, since we still got a few minutes left here, what did you think about the way that Zombiepalooza Dead Again was pitched to you, and what were your first ideas about the whole product?
I really didn't know what to expect, to tell you the truth. I approach everything just very open, and so far it's been fun. You know, it's been nerve-wracking. I keep thinking I'm going to blank out every time you ask me something, and I won't have anything to say. But luckily, everything's been pretty fluid, so it's been great for me. And I hope that people are respectful and receptive of what we're trying to do as fans and as creators of content too. You know, anybody can passive-aggressively bash anybody on YouTube or Facebook and not think anything out of it. You know, we put a lot of ourselves into the projects, you know, and you know, we just definitely want people to, you know, if they enjoy it, to get a kick out of it. If they don't enjoy it, just to leave it alone and don't even look at it, you know. Just pass it by.
Right. And I'm very uber protective of Zombiepalooza Radio, and if anybody, you know, goes on there and they start like talking smack, they don't get a second chance to do it. I nix it in the bud quick. I do know that a lot of the people that are a part of this particular project do have military backgrounds, and so I'm out there with the banners, you know, letting people know that we highly respect these individuals and thank them for their service and their amazing talent. What they come and bring to the plate to Zombiepalooza Radio and Zombiepalooza Dead Again is absolutely amazing. We have some of the most creative, talented people, I believe, worldwide on this particular page. And so when you come either as a fan or you come as an individual who has something to bring to the project itself, there is a lot of respect for you here on the page. And you know, a lot of times people say, "Well, yeah, you appreciate it," but they don't really, you know, get that feeling. I have been absolutely stunned at some of the responses that I have gotten from total and complete strangers who come to this page and they say, "How can I help? What can I do to be able to make this a better experience for you and for the other people on the page?" So really much appreciation there. Every once in a while I'll put something out there and hopefully it doesn't sound like it's coming off as being just, something I need to say. It comes from the genuine. I myself have post-traumatic stress disorder, and very often it can cause a number of different kinds of issues, sleep deprivation and high anxiety and things of that sort, and having to produce the show and host it too, there are a lot of different kinds of things that we go through and experience. And I have found that many of the people that have been guests on the show have been extremely patient with some of our server issues and some of the glitches. Every once in a while I end up pulling the cord on my headset, and it'll if I do that, it'll yank everything out and I have to restart the thing. But I have not had any kind of issues from any of the guests. I've been very blessed with that. So again, I would love to say thank you so much to Chris Ambritz and
Ambritz, yes.
Ambritz, and say please come back again, tell others about what we're doing, because that's part of the networking.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that before you sign off, either this evening or sometime tomorrow when you can, put up links for what you do, and where they can find you and that kind of thing, because it is networking that what this is about, and to let people know how they can find you. And I'm also wanting you to, there were a couple of books that you mentioned earlier when you first started learning how to do special effects makeup and things of that sort. I would like you to post up those books if you can, or at least the names of the people that created them, so that perhaps new budding special effects artists can see the material and get started just like you did.
Oh yes, I'll tell anybody really quickly. It's an art, you know, and you have to have the respect for the art. It revolves every aspect of art, and that's you know, definitely have to go through the books and everything else to do it.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I'm going to get set up for yet another short break, and then we are going to bring on Zombie Education Division. And let's see, his street name, they call him the Death Dealer. But he's a very interesting man. Lots of different kinds of things that he does, including being an amazing herbalist and knowing how to put zombie cars together. So stay tuned after the short break, and we're going to bring on Zombie Education Division.